Welcome to Lesson 9 of PSRM Fundamentals Overview, where we'll be discussing collections and looking at the different case management life cycle objects that we have within the system, which try to encourage the taxpayer to pay his debt. And we will be looking at an overdue process and collection case, and also pay plan as well. And we'll be creating an overdue process which will trigger a collection case, with describing obviously what each one does, and we'll see eventually that we will be writing off the debt completely to kick in. And the way it works is using an overdue monitor, a background program which runs and either runs periodically to check all accounts to see what their status is, what their balance is, and can also be determined by if financial transactions have been committed to this particular account. That will also trigger a compliance review, which will make the rules, the overdue rules, run. If you remember, we looked at the overdue rules in earlier, and there's something called the collection class overdue rules, and these are the rules which run periodically and check the balance. So in fact, they are used to checking both the balance to see whether there are outstanding amounts on assessments, and also to check to see whether an overpayment needs to start. Here we're looking at how an overdue is started, and this is the algorithm which kicks off the overdue process. And in fact, there are settings here within the algorithm which just determine what type of overdue process to begin. So in this particular example, we're going to take our example that we have of store BBB, and we see that it is in debt of 343. We created a waiver previously, and now we are going to manually create the overdue process that would normally, in a normal situation, be kicked off through a batch process, because that all these financial transactions have been created and now it's in debt. So I'm going to do this manually. I'm going to go to case management. I'm going to create an overdue process. And the account that we are going to be looking at and is this one, and if it was done through the batch, the one which would be the standard overdue process, and that's the one we'll look at. And an overdue process can either look at the obligation amounts or the assessments, and here we're going to be looking at particular assessments. And we have two assessments, and the ones which we have, one of them is in, as we see, 343. The other assessment, if we want to look at it, is the one which is the negative. And that's nothing to actually create an overdue on that. So I'm going to save that. And what you see happens when you create the overdue is different events are created, and that's because that the overdue process is again controlled by the admin object, which is the overdue process template. So what I'm going to do is create myself another tab. And I'm going to open up the overdue process template so we can have a look at how that works. we're looking at the standard one, so our example, and you see that the first thing is what do you collect on? And here we're collecting on assessments. You can do one also on obligations. There's a lot of algorithms here determining when this particular overdue process should actually be cancelled. For example, here, if it's below 50, the assessment, the overdue will be cancelled automatically. They have a collection here of overdue events which will take place in a certain sequence. So, for example, here we're going to first of all create an overdue assessment letter. That's a customer contact you'll see, after which the compliance rating will drop by 100 if, as you see, 10 days later, it's dependent upon the completion of this particular letter. 10 days later, then the compliance rating will fall by 100. If you remember, the compliance rating is set on the account, and it starts at 1,000 and will go down, after which we update the P&I and notify the taxpayer, and then write down 5 if it's below 5, and then we can create something called a collection case if in fact we still have an outstanding debt. So let's see what happens by using our overdue process now. We can trigger the events, although again this is generally done in batch. We can trigger it manually by hitting trigger events. And you see that this is the first event has been created. In the log, you should be able to see what has been created. Customer contact has been created, and this is a customer contact which is used to create a letter. So a letter will go out to the particular person. The actual extract of the letter is determined on the contact type. So if we go to the contact type, you would then see the letter template and the extract algorithm, which actually extracts the information. We don't need to look at that at the moment. Let's go back to the overdue process. So we have triggered the first event. The second event is to change the rating by 100, and that's actually going to take place in 12 days' time. We don't want to wait that long, so we can go to, again, just manually change this, and it should be on the 12th of it's going to actually take place on the 12th of January. I'm going to change that, and there won't be a dependency, and I can change this date till today. And in fact, what I'm going to do so that I can run all these events, I'm going to actually update these all so that they can all run today, so we can see them running. This is just 0 days after the 5th one. I don't need to change that. Let's just save that. Now let's see what happens if I actually trigger the events. So we've seen that now we've triggered those events. We've created the letter previously. The compliance rating has dropped by 100. We've updated P&I. We can't write down amounts because the balance is greater than $5. And we have created a collection case, sorry. And we will see, if we look again at the overview, that we are now, event 50 is in the waiting step. And what is actually happening is it's waiting for the event 60 won't actually happen. We won't write off the total amount until the collection case is complete. And in fact, the collection case is taking over control, and hopefully a collection case will be the one who will be able to impose upon the taxpayer and make sure that the taxpayer pays. Because even though we've sent a letter and we've done these different actions, events, the customer, the taxpayer has yet to pay. If you actually have a look, by the way, at these particular collection class events, again, the event type has a type. There's something called a, this creates a collection case, and it checks for completed collection case in order for it to continue and to trigger the last event. So it will not actually be created, the write-off won't be created until actually the collection case is complete. In fact, it has to be checked for completed. If it's cancelled, then it won't be written off either. So let's have a look at the so this is the overdue process, and we see the overdue process is a collection of different events, one after the other. Normally, they are triggered based upon days, as we saw. We overrode that, and we have seen basically an example here. Overdue process. It's based upon a template, and the template has different overdue event types. And each one of the events are particular actions like creating collection case or P&I and sending a letter and so on. So let us now move on to collection case and see what that is. So let's actually go back to the application and now look at this particular alert, and it should actually bring us to the collection case that we created as part of our overdue process. And here in the collection case, you'll see that it's different than an overdue process, that in fact there isn't actually a list of different events scheduled one after the other that needs to take place, but rather it's just a collection of different ways of trying to make the particular taxpayer pay. You can send a letter, you can refer to a collection agency, you can transfer to someone else to deal with this issue. You can create a pay plan. In our example over here, we are going to actually just, let's say, we could send a letter, a particular letter, compliance and collection, overdue assessment, notification. We can send a letter, and this will be sent out saying that the overdue process is complete, and now we've gone to collection, and we'll be sending it to a authority to send out. We can refer to an agency. Again, select an account. This is select account collection agency if we had in the system, and how much to collect, and so on. In our case, we're going to actually just simply collect on uncollectible. But before we do that, let's look at the collection case type, which again controls much of the configuration of the collection case. And you see it has different sections dealing with different aspects. Some of them are like sending letters, to-dos, agency referral, pay plans that could be created as a result. So a pay plan, let's see, if we added a pay plan, we can add a pay plan. A pay plan is a way of encouraging a taxpayer to pay in installments, basically. And it should take us to the pay plan. And in fact, what I can do over here is create monthly fixed amounts, and you can have intervals of specific amounts of weeks or months and amounts, and we can actually recommend an amount and create scheduled payments and activate that, and that will encourage the taxpayer to pay not the total 340 in one go, but can be done in smaller amounts on scheduled dates. And that's the concept of a pay plan. And let's just go back now and to our collection case and just finish it by clicking on uncollectible, say that there wasn't a way of collecting the money, and what it will do is ask us for a reason why I can't collect on it, and it will close that collection case. Now, once that's done, first of all, we have some outstanding pay plans. I'd like to cancel those too. Let's just cancel those. The pay plan, let's say, didn't work either. Let us now go back to our overdue process that we started the whole thing with. And if you remember, the overdue process started a collection case, and now I should be able to trigger. The event 50 is in waiting step, and it was waiting for the completion of the collection case. And the collection case is now completed because we could not collect. And if I trigger this, what will happen is we should write off the amount. In other words, the 343 will be written down, well, at least this particular assessment will be written down. So any related amount, 343, which is the total amount, will be written down for this account, and this taxpayer will be then set with a balance of 0. So let's see if that's what happens when I trigger the events. And as you see, the balance has gone down to 0. If I actually go to my we don't actually use this, we can go to here directly. You will see now that the total amount, if you remember, was 300 and so. We waived $10, and now what we've done is written off the remaining amount. We've written off $6 for the extra interest, extra failure to pay, and miscellaneous fee is written off as well. So that is the total being written off, and the balance has gone down to 0. So what have we seen? What have we seen in this lesson? We've first of all looked at an overdue process. An overdue process is a list of events in a certain sequence that can take place. It's triggered by the account debt monitor. We created it manually. And you can either create overdue process based upon assessments or obligations, and we were actually monitoring assessments. And as a result of the list of events that took place, after sending out a customer contact, we created a collection case and then waited for that collection case to be complete before actually writing off the debt. Now, in the case, when we looked at the collection case, we saw that the collection case dealt with a few different activities, like creating a pay plan, creating letters, referring to collection agency, and it was based upon its admin object, the collection case type, which holds other configuration pieces. And in our case, as we just mentioned, after we were unable to collect any money, it was closed and then moved back to the overdue process. And then we saw a creation of a pay plan. And a pay plan basically as a method of trying to get a taxpayer to pay by splitting the debt into more manageable pieces on specific dates. And the pay plan has the ability to create a recommendation of types of charges based upon how many times per month or per year, and how many pieces, and starting and end dates to create manageable amounts. And We cancelled that pay plan, we didn't use it, we then went back to the collection case, and then the collection case referred back to the overdue, which completed the picture.